Welcome to NZ Pocket Guide, New Zealand's largest travel guide. Visit nzpocketguide.com for thousands of tips, hidden gems, and ways to plan the perfect trip in New Zealand. This is a readout of an article available for free on the website. Check out the link in the description and let's get started. The Travel Guide to New Zealand for Families. How to plan a trip to New Zealand with children. There's nothing like hitting the road to explore places with sublime landscapes that the whole family will remember for many years to come. Well, that's New Zealand in a nutshell. The country is comprised of two main islands, the North Island and the South Island, both offering a destination for families to adventure together. New Zealand is a place to educate the little ones of different cultures like the local Maori and experience the playground that Mother Nature has provided. Plan a trip to New Zealand with the kids using this travel guide to New Zealand for families. About New Zealand. Location. New Zealand is located on the Oceania continent in the South Pacific Ocean, about 1,500 kilometers, 930 miles, east of Australia and around 1,000 kilometers, 620 miles, south of the South Pacific Islands. Climate. New Zealand has a diverse climate across the country, where the mean average temperatures are 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, in the South Island and 16 degrees Celsius, 61 degrees Fahrenheit, in the North Island. Time zone, UTC/GMT +12. Population, 5 million. Languages, English, Maori and New Zealand Sign Language. Size, 268,021 square kilometers, 103,483 mi2 in total. It is approximately 1,600 kilometers, 990 miles, long and around 400 kilometers, 250 miles, at its widest point. Traveling to New Zealand. First things first, you'll need to see if you are actually able to travel to New Zealand due to restrictions put in place at the borders after the COVID-19 outbreak. Visit covid19.government.nz for the latest travel information. Now on to the fun stuff. Most families travel to New Zealand via the skies. Search for direct flights from the US, Canada, South America, Asia, Australia and the South Pacific Islands. Coming further afield from destinations such as in Europe, and you'll need to catch at least one connecting flight. See our complete guide on how to get to New Zealand. Otherwise, here's a quick rundown. Flight times to New Zealand. Argentina, 12 hours 30 minutes. Brazil, 15 hours 30 minutes. Canada, 16 hours 30 minutes. China, 13 hours 30 minutes. Denmark, 22 hours. Finland, 20 hours. France, 23 hours 30 minutes. Germany, 22 hours 30 minutes. Hong Kong, 11 hours. Israel, 32 hours. Italy, 22 hours 30 minutes. Japan, 11 hours. Korea, 12 hours. Malaysia, 11 hours. Netherlands, 22 hours 30 minutes. Philippines, 10 hours 30 minutes. Singapore, 10 hours 30 minutes. Sweden, 21 hours. Taiwan, 11 hours. United Kingdom, 22 hours 30 minutes. USA-12 hours. Vietnam, 12 hours 30 minutes. New Zealand International Airports. Starting north to south, these are the airports you can arrive in New Zealand from overseas. The most popular international airports in New Zealand are Auckland, AKL Christchurch, CHE Queenstown, ZQN. However, flights from Australia can also arrive at Wellington Airport, WLG, and Dunedin, DUD. The cost of flights to New Zealand for families. Airfares depend on different factors: what time of year you choose to fly, how long in advance you book, where you're flying from, what type of ticket you get, and the route you take to get to New Zealand. With that, airfares can cost anywhere between $200 New Zealand dollars to $5,000 per economy ticket. To save money on pricey airfares, note that the cheapest time to fly to New Zealand is during New Zealand's spring, winter and autumn months, between July and November. Summer and particularly around Christmas is the most expensive time to fly to New Zealand. You can often also save money by booking multiple stopovers, i.e. less direct routes to New Zealand. However, this comes at the disadvantage of longer travel times, which is not worth the hassle with younger children. We recommend paying a little more for more direct flights. Check out the 5 money-saving tips for flying to New Zealand with kids on nzpocketguide.com for more advice. A note on New Zealand's biosecurity. New Zealand has strict biosecurity measures at the border to stop unwanted pests and diseases from entering the country. This includes common items like food and sports gear. Be sure to read up on everything you need to know about arriving in a New Zealand airport so that your family is prepared. When to visit New Zealand with kids. New Zealand has a famous saying, 4 seasons in a day. In other words, the weather is very changeable even in summer. For this reason, we do not recommend planning your trip too much around the weather. The decision on when to travel to New Zealand with kids is better based on when it's most convenient for your family. Nevertheless, here is what you can typically expect in each season. Summer, December to February. Summer is the warmest time of year, reaching highs of 25 degrees Celsius, 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Expect finer days than during the rest of the year, where you'll need to slap on the kids' sunscreen constantly due to the high UV levels. Autumn, March to May. Autumn has milder temperatures, anywhere between 6 degrees Celsius, 43 degrees Fahrenheit, and 20 degrees Celsius, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Weather patterns start to become more changeable with a few more rainy days than in summer. Winter, June to August. Temperatures can be anywhere between -3 degrees Celsius, 27 degrees Fahrenheit, and 15 degrees Celsius, 59 degrees Fahrenheit, depending on which parts of the country you are in. Snow falls in alpine regions, while rainfall is more frequent elsewhere. Spring, September to November. Temperatures rise again during this shoulder season, where lows are 2 degrees Celsius, 36 degrees Fahrenheit, and highs are 17 degrees Celsius, 63 degrees Fahrenheit. Expect to experience both fine weather and rainy days. New Zealand family packing list. Sure, we have a full New Zealand packing list that goes way too much into detail. But in short, families should prepare for a New Zealand holiday by packing lots of layers, sun protection, or winter warmers and containers, water bottles, etc. necessary for a family on the go. Note that New Zealand has plenty of shops and services should you need anything while you're traveling, including nappies or diapers for our American friends. Therefore, there's no need to pack the kitchen sink. The lighter you pack, the easier it will be to travel around. A quick family packing list. The key to packing lightly for New Zealand is versatile outfits. Some handy items to remember for every family member includes leggings/sweatpants/hiking pants, shorts for warmer days, sweater/hoodie/mid-layer, hiking shoes, flip-flops, swimwear, thermal underlayer, top and or bottoms, waterproof and windproof jacket, woolen socks, a warm jacket, winter/spring/autumn, a selection of light tops, underwear, toiletries including a mini first aid kit, sunscreen and insect repellent, New Zealand travel adapter, camera/phone, electronic device chargers, extra batteries are a good idea, reusable water bottles, travel-friendly food containers, picnicking is a family must-do, New Zealand visas. A tourist/visitor visa for New Zealand activates automatically upon entry to New Zealand for most countries, usually allowing visitors to stay for up to 3 months. Visitors also need to pay for NZTA and IVL before arrival in New Zealand. Family travel insurance for New Zealand. Although the ACC in New Zealand partly covers accidental injury medical bills, many families opt for travel insurance for peace of mind. New Zealand currency. The currency in New Zealand is New Zealand dollars, NZD. There are plenty of ATMs in towns and cities where you'll be able to withdraw cash. Credit cards are also widely accepted. Get more tips on how to save money on withdrawing cash and paying with card, locally known as paying with EFTPOS, in our article, The Best Way to Pay in New Zealand on nzpocketguide.com. How long should a family trip to New Zealand be? Unlike many destinations, New Zealand is best experienced by traveling from place to place, rather than staying in one spot. A common mistake families make, however, is underestimating the travel times by road. Allow around 3 weeks to comfortably see both the North and South Islands. Otherwise, planning to visit just one island is a smart option for 1 or 2 weeks holiday. 1 to 2 weeks in New Zealand. Within this time, you should explore just one of the main islands. 3 to 4 weeks in New Zealand. 3 weeks to a month is a preferable time to visit both islands in New Zealand, perhaps for your children's summer holidays. Get inspiration from the free New Zealand family itineraries available in the Trip Idea tab on nzpocketguide.com. Family-friendly transport in New Zealand. There's no right or wrong way to get around New Zealand, as it all depends on your family's preference, needs and budget. The most family-friendly transport options in New Zealand are the following. Renting a campervan or motorhome. A super popular way for families to travel around New Zealand, campervans and motorhomes provide freedom without having to unpack and repack at every motel. Renting a car. Renting a car provides ultimate freedom, easy driving and cheaper rental rates for families. See our recommendations on the website. National coaches. For families on a tight budget, national coaches provide the cheapest way of getting from A to B. Intercity forms the most extensive public transport network in the country and is child-friendly. Bus tours. The most hassle-free way to travel New Zealand with kids is on one of the guided bus tours, often with some meals and all accommodation included. While typically not suitable for infants, there are a few tour companies that accept children aged 5 years and above. Domestic flights. While not as popular as in other countries, domestic flights in New Zealand are only a good idea for traveling long distances or between the North and South Islands. Ferries. There are ferry services in New Zealand not only to enable travel between the North and South Islands but to other offshore islands. They are an exciting experience for kids. Trains. Finally, what kid doesn't love riding the train? In New Zealand, you'll love it too, with the rail journeys being a scenic experience rather than a boring commute. Note, however, that the train network is small in New Zealand and is not transport to rely on to get around the entire country. The best New Zealand destinations for families. Here are some of our favorite kid-friendly areas in New Zealand in no particular order. They are all fun. North Island. Bay of Islands for its islands and beaches. Auckland for its volcanoes and city life. Rotorua for its geothermal activity and Maori culture. Waitomo for its caves and glowworms. Taupo for its lake and bike trails. Wellington for its capital city vibes. South Island. Picton for its water activities. Kaikoura for its marine wildlife. Hanma Springs for its hot pools. Aoraki Mount Cook for its mountains and glaciers. Queenstown for its adventure activities. Milford Sound for its remote wilderness. And that's just the hot spots. We encourage you to explore other destinations in our New Zealand Family Destinations Guides. Things to do in New Zealand with kids. New Zealand has so much to do that we could barely fit it all in our 50 best things to do in New Zealand with kids. In short, you'll find experiences in New Zealand to suit a range of interests, budgets and ages. Families often find that the free attractions, like waterfalls, clear springs, wildlife sightings and giant limestone arches are highlights of their holiday. In between, an exhilarating jet boat ride, a cute farm park visit or an epic off-roading tour are memorable experiences worth splurging for. Plan your New Zealand bucket list using the 20 best things to do on the North Island with kids and the 20 best things to do on the South Island with kids videos on this channel. Family accommodation in New Zealand. Families are welcome to all accommodation types in New Zealand, from family rooms in budget hostels to holiday homes listed on Booking.com, Expedia and Airbnb. Here's a quick rundown of the accommodations available for families in New Zealand. Holiday parks. By far the most family-friendly option in New Zealand, holiday parks have self-contained motel units, basic cabins, tent sites and powered sites for campervans, as well as communal kitchens, laundry, bathrooms and children's playground facilities. Motels. Offering a more compact home away from home, motels provide privacy and convenience for families with kitchens, bathrooms and at least one separate bedroom, all within one unit. Hostels. A fantastic budget option, hostels offer family rooms and private dorms with shared facilities, such as a kitchen, laundry and bathrooms. Campsites. Campsites are where you can pitch a tent or park a campervan/motorhome overnight. Holiday homes. Enjoy entire holiday homes, locally known as batches, all to yourselves, with plenty listed on booking websites like Booking.com, Expedia and Airbnb. Hotels. Hotels are found in New Zealand's largest cities and top tourist destinations. They follow the usual international standard with star ratings, private en-suite rooms and additional facilities like a restaurant. What to eat? Stopping for food is a good way to break up the drive and, well, stay alive. There are plenty of supermarkets across New Zealand to stock up on healthy road trip snacks and groceries to make the most of the self-catering accommodation and save a ton of money on food. If you do want to treat the family, however, you'll find an eclectic array of eateries across New Zealand. New Zealand-style cafes and restaurants serve westernized meals where children's menus are almost always available. You'll also find all sorts of international cuisine, especially Chinese, Indian, Thai, Vietnamese and Japanese, should you crave variety. It is acceptable to bring baby food or breastfeed in restaurants. See what are the staples of New Zealand, such as fish and chips, hani and a hokey pokey ice cream, in the Where to Try Traditional New Zealand Food? Article on NZ Pocket Guide. Work out your family travel budget for New Zealand. While we can't give you a precise family budget for New Zealand, knowing that each family has very different tastes and needs, we can provide the typical expenses associated with a family trip after airfares. Note that children's rates for accommodation, activities and public transport are usually half the price of adult fares. Transport costs. National coach bus per 4-hour trip, $30 New Zealand to $80 New Zealand per adult, $30 New Zealand to $60 New Zealand per child. Car hire per day, $30 New Zealand to $150 New Zealand. 4-person campervan hire per day, $120 New Zealand to $420 New Zealand. Petrol per litre, 0.3 gallons, $1 New Zealand and 90 cents to $2 New Zealand and 20 cents. Domestic flights per one-way pp, $120 New Zealand to $240 New Zealand. Train per one-way pp, $100 New Zealand to $260 New Zealand. Accommodation costs. Family room in a hostel, motel or holiday park per night, $90 New Zealand to $240 New Zealand. Apartment or holiday home per night, $190 New Zealand to $370 New Zealand. Motel self-contained unit per 4 people per night, $150 New Zealand to $250 New Zealand. Campervan powered site per 4 people per night, $50 New Zealand to $80 New Zealand. Department of Conservation, DOC, campsite per night, $15 New Zealand per adult, $7 New Zealand and 50 cents per child. Freedom camping with self-contained vehicle, free. Activities costs. Walking/hiking trails, free. Jet boat, $80 New Zealand to $130 New Zealand adult per $50 New Zealand to $70 New Zealand per child. Whale watching, $120 New Zealand to $150 New Zealand per adult, $60 New Zealand per child. Cruise in Milford Sound, $60 New Zealand to $100 New Zealand per adult, $20 New Zealand to $30 New Zealand per child. Rotorua Geothermal Park, $30 New Zealand to $70 New Zealand per adult and free to $15 New Zealand per child. Horse trekking, $50 New Zealand to $150 New Zealand. Hobbiton, $80 New Zealand to $100 New Zealand per adult and free to $50 New Zealand per child. Glowworm tour, $50 New Zealand to $120 New Zealand. Food costs. 1 litre, 35 fluid ounces of milk, 2 New Zealand dollars and 40 cents. A dozen eggs, 5 New Zealand dollars and 40 cents. 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds of rice, 2 New Zealand dollars. 500 grams, 1.1 pounds, pasta, 1 New Zealand dollar and 20 cents. A loaf of sliced bread, 1 New Zealand dollar and 20 cents. 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds, cheese, 11 New Zealand dollars. 100 grams, 3.5 ounces, dry freeze coffee, 7 New Zealand dollars. 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds of apples, 5 New Zealand dollars. 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds of bananas, 3 New Zealand dollars. 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds of tomatoes, 10 New Zealand dollars. 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds of onions, 2 New Zealand dollars. 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds of chicken, 13 New Zealand dollars. 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds of beef mince, 13 New Zealand dollars. That's it for this article. Hit like and subscribe to say thank you, and remember, this article is available for free on nzpocketguide.com. Check out the link in the description. Plus, there are thousands of articles for you to plan the perfect New Zealand holiday.